Hey guys, what is good? Derek here from Bomb Socks with more Bomb Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ and we do it one bite at a time. So T number 4 for Latter-day Saints today is testimony, all right? So with testimony, I got to take you over to section 62 of the Doctrine and Covenants, and there's one verse here that has always been such a cool verse, and it teaches a pretty cool principle. So 62 verse number 3, it says, "Nevertheless, ye are blessed, for the testimony which ye have borne is..." One, recorded in heaven for the angels to look upon, and they rejoice over you. And here's a nice little bonus, and your sins are forgiven you. I mean, you think about that. That's a bold promise. You bear your testimony and your sins are forgiven you. I mean, I've always wondered how that works, that you bear your testimony and your sins are forgiven you. And that should be reason enough for when we go to our fast and testimony meetings. The bishop says, "Well, now turn the time over to those like to bear their testimonies." People should be racing to the pulpit to bear their testimony if this is something that helps get your sins forgiven. Well, I found a cool cross-reference a couple years ago that really helped solidify this idea for me. It's in the New Testament. It's in James chapter 5, verse 20. Now you go to James chapter 5, verse 20. It says, "Let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins." I love that. It's so cool when you put those two things together. You think about it, when you stand up and you bear your testimony and you bear a heartfelt testimony. I know sometimes we feel, like I'd mentioned back on Monday's episode, we feel clumsy when we bear our testimonies. I know sometimes, many of you have maybe rehearsed in your heads certain things. You've even written down, your testimony that you want to share. And then you get up there and you just kind of verbally just blah, church true, it's not the prettiest thing in the world. But you get up there and you just go by the Spirit of the Lord and you share what the Lord wants you to share, even though it may not be the way that you originally intended it. But what happens is your testimony ends up helping someone else out there. That phrase, again, he who can save a sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of his own sins. So you go back to that right there. Your sins are forgiven when you bear your testimony. So why don't we have more people who bear their testimony? I really do feel like it is fear. We fear the things that maybe we won't say the right things, or maybe it won't sound as good. Maybe we don't even have that testimony, or we don't think we have that testimony. Well, I love what Brigham Young said about this. Brigham said this. He said, "Many may think that they haven't a testimony to bear, but get them to stand up, and they will find that the Lord will give them utterance to the many truths that they have not thought of before." More people have obtained a testimony while standing up trying to bear it than down on their knees praying for it. I have always loved that quote because it tells you that, and I've watched this happen so many times. I've watched it happen with myself. I have watched it happen with teenagers over the last 20 some odd years. I've seen some kids get up and they kind of clumsily, again, very simply get up and bear their testimony, but they share words, and maybe it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but you see and you feel that spirit and you watch them. It is so cool to watch what happens to them. I was talking to a student the other day and he just said, "I don't get up and bear my testimony very often," but he said he felt the need to do it. And so he got up and he said all of a sudden he's just bearing testimony. He's feeling the Spirit. And he said, "I was just saying things that I normally don't say." And he said, "There's a lot of people who were very much affected by it," but he said, "I was the one who was affected most by it." Maybe that sinner mentioned in James chapter 5 is us. And what it does is it saves a soul from death and hides a multitude of sins. So anyway, I would invite you, whenever the opportunity presents itself to you, to share your testimony and just bear that testimony. And you'll be amazed how it can not only help others, but it helps your own self as well. I always believe that the person who learns the most from a testimony is the person who is bearing it. So take the opportunity to do that, and I promise you'll be blessed for it. Hey, thank you again for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for letting me share my testimony with you guys, and hopefully that'll help me get my sins forgiven as well as I'm doing this. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow with T number 5. Godspeed. See ya. Bye-bye.